Life brings its tough breaks, and we are all only moderately equipped to navigate our most forlorn days. The past few years have been tough on most. This is in view of the COVID-19 pandemic, the lockdown, and the general rising trends of instability. Even the toughest people have been hit hard. John Wall, former point guard for the Washington Wizards, recently opened up about his personal struggles, exploring his fall from consistency, the loss of loved ones, and the support and value he's been getting from people around him. Stay tuned as we check this out.
But first, a reminder about our brand new giveaway. We're giving away a PS5 with a copy of NBA 2K22 and Madden 22. All you have to do is watch the full video, leave a like, comment the keyword hidden in the video, and make sure you're subscribed. It's that simple.
First, when did the trouble start? Being an athlete is an emotional roller coaster. Fans to impress, team board members to please, trophies to be won. The list goes on and on. Plus, most athletes often push themselves beyond their limits, trying to be fulfilled while keeping the fans happy. One of the tragic things that can happen here is an injury, and that was the start of trouble for John Wall. John Wall spent his days in the Washington Wizards establishing himself as a phenomenal and dynamic floor general. This was to change though when he tore his Achilles and started his descent into inconsistency. His history of injuries didn't actually start there. He had to sit out over 30 games in 2012 when he had a knee injury. In the last days of 2018, he had a heel surgery that took him out of commission for just a little while, or so it was intended. 2 days to the end of January the next month, his former team announced that he had fallen at home and partially ruptured his Achilles tendon. This was the start of his fall from grace and signaled the beginning of new troubles for the then Washington Wizards star. He later also developed an infection from the heel surgery he had just months before. And how did it affect his career and performance? The injury proved to be a development that ended up being too costly for the player. It effectively ended the season for him, and he had to go to rehab to facilitate the recovery of his heel. To exacerbate matters, he had to be traded off from his team of 10 years, where he had carved a niche for himself and shown how effective he was to the team. The Washington Wizards in 2020 traded him over to the Houston Rockets for Russell Westbrook. It was to be a new beginning for him, a place where he could start afresh and again take his chances at dominating the court. Sounds too far-fetched, you might think. You'd be right. Sadly, the kickstart that both he and the fans had intended to witness didn't happen. He had to sit out the whole of the 2021-22 season. There are a lot of complications regarding that development, the most prominent being that he's a really expensive player, and most teams would only be willing to trade if he was fit and healthy. The Rockets probably didn't want the chance of him developing another injury while they looked for potential teams to trade with. And how did he feel about this? Well, chances are that he wasn't very much happy about having to view things from the sidelines instead of on the battlefield, on the court. And these weren't his biggest problems either. He had other personal problems that he was dealing with that contributed negatively to his mental state. An ailing mother, a son's heartbreak. Wall was essentially raised by his mother. His father passed away from liver cancer when he was just 9 years old. This sort of dynamic, this sort of tragedy, usually only serves to strengthen the ties between mother and child, and this case was no different. This is evidenced by Wall's numerous remarks about the woman in the press and his appearance with her in public on several occasions. In 2014, he talked about how she motivated him and how she pushed him to become the basketball player he is today. He talked about how important she was to his decision and how she encouraged him, to quote him, to try to do something meaningful with his life. According to him, she was one of the biggest factors in his recognition of his talent in basketball. She instilled the values of respect and giving back to others in him. The player even went as far as breaking down in tears when he reminisced about how she worked 3 jobs to keep his little family afloat when he was younger. One can only imagine how much he loves and feels indebted to her. But another tragedy fell. Things took a wrong turn for the Wall family when his mother developed breast cancer, which she battled for quite some time. Considering the fact that his father passed away from a similar disease when he was younger, this must have been incredibly hard for him to deal with. Shortly after the diagnosis, he seemed to have a hard time coming to terms with the new development. He said in an interview, "Spending time with my mom that's battling cancer. God don't make no mistakes. I can't wonder why he did this. I can't wonder why he did this. Probably it's a good time to spend with my mom while she's battling this cancer and be there for her." And the worst blow hit Wall, almost taking him out with the impact. She passed away in December 2019, and John was there to see her take her last breath. He mentioned that she wore the same clothes for 3 straight days. That one, in particular, must have been a sad one for him. His team and teammates took to social media shortly after to offer their condolences. Prominent among these was the eulogy of John Calipari, who coached Wall during his time in college. He further reinforced what they knew about Wall's mother, a stunning, powerful, hardworking woman that imparted much wisdom and grace into her son's life. He mentioned how Wall's decision to stay in the UK with him was due to her influence. From this, we can can glean just how much Wall was affected by her death and how it contributed later to his breakdown. What happened to his mental health? Anyone who has lost a loved one knows how debilitating the feeling gets. It's a sinking one. All the years you have spent together turn to gray ash, and you are left trying to make sense of the world without them in it. Coping with such a loss is hard for even the most well-rounded people, but coping with such a loss when going through the pain of losing some of your physical ability is even harder. Still reeling from the shock of his mother's death, he had to deal with the passing of his grandmother too shortly after. So now he had 3 major life-changing losses in the span of 2 years. The loss of a mother and grandmother, and a career that seemed to be in decline due to injury. We don't have to stretch our imagination much to understand how he must have felt. He was morbidly descriptive about it in his last interview, calling it the darkest place he's ever been in, and saying he contemplated committing suicide at some point. Grief is a wild thing. It takes no hostages and leaves no quarter. To hear a man as successful as Wall is talk about things like that, well, it does make an impression. This was in the midst of COVID too, a time when a lot of people lost their loved ones and couldn't even see them, a time when the world felt dour and structures that had been in place for ages started upending. It's easy to understand why our star, John Wall, felt like the world was closing around him. What was his support system? He looked much better in his last interview though. This must be a testament to how amazing his support system is, which he also talked about. He made mention of kids, 2 beautiful people who he now lives for and invests much of his energy into. He mentioned how they've been a great source of motivation for him too. He gave a shout out to the mother of his kids. Speculation arises as to if he's now with her, but none are definitive or reliable. His reasons: if I can get through this, I can get through anything in life. And he's right. In every hero's story, there's a rock bottom. This is usually a very pivotal part of the journey and would determine how a person spends the rest of their life. It takes a lot to see this. Having a good support system is one of the only ways in which a person can. His fellow players have also taken to social media to offer their care and reiterate their camaraderie. Even LeBron James, the star player of Wall's new greatest rivals, the Los Angeles Lakers, tweeted a message of support that basically said, "We always have your back and we're proud of you." He also mentioned how the fans inspired him to take control of his grief, how the fact that they still want to see him play ball inspires him. His hometown has been an emotional haven, according to him. He's even been able to admit to himself that he needs help. That's always the first step, and he found himself a therapist. He now looks forward to what the season brings, and many people have been very upfront about their expectations of him. Now with the Los Angeles Clippers, he has a well-rounded opportunity to once again showcase his talent before he hangs his shoes. Do you think he has a chance at the finals? Comment your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to hit the like and notification buttons. Have a great day!